Hello, dear students. Greetings to all. In the last class, we have seen the beginning of the story, A Hero, written by R.K. Narayan. So, we have seen the story of Swaminathan. He was forced by his father to sleep at his father's office room at night. He had a habit of sleeping with his granny, but on that day he was forced by his father to sleep at his father's office. Let us continue the story. Page number 51. He remembered all the stories of devils and ghosts he had heard in his life. So, as he is sleeping alone at his father's office, he is remembering all the devil stories or the stories of ghosts in his life. Which are the stories that he heard or he remembered on that night? How often had Bunny seen the devil in the banyan tree at his street end? So there was a story in his street that one man called Money, he used to see devil at banyan tree at his street end. And the next story that he heard was of Muniswami's father. And what about poor Muniswami's father who spat out blood because the devil near the river's edge slapped his cheek when he was returning home late one night? Muniswami's father was going back to his house. It was a late night, and near to the river, when he came near to the river, the devil slapped on his face, and the blood came out from his mouth. He was faint with fear. A ray of light from the street lamp strayed in and cast shadows on the wall. He covered himself so completely that he could hardly breathe. So, in the room where Swaminathan was sleeping, there was no light at all, but there was a small light coming out from the street light. And actually, with this light, shadows were made on the walls. And he covered his face with a blanket. He was even unable to breathe easily. Every moment he expected the devils to come up to carry him away. So he was very frightened and he was thinking that the devil will come and will take him away. Swaminathan hurriedly got up and spread his bed under the bench and crouched there. So all of a sudden he stood from the bench and he took his bed, spread it under the bench, and he slept there. He was laying down there. It seemed to be a much safer place, more compact and reassuring. He shut his eyes tight and encased himself in his blanket once again, and unknown to himself, fell asleep and was racked with nightmares. So he closed his eyes very tight and he was trying to sleep himself because he was totally frightened and he was racked with nightmares. Racked with nightmares is an idiom, and its meaning is that it refers to the distress caused by nightmares. Racked with can also be used with the words fear or guilt. So he is totally filled with fear or bad dreams. That's why it is written that he was racked with nightmares. A tiger was chasing him, his feet stuck to the ground. He desperately tried to escape, but his feet would not move. The tiger was at his back, and he could hear its claws scratch the ground, scratch, scratch, and then a light thud. Slowly, he fell asleep. But then he started to dream. And what was the dream? A tiger was chasing him. And unfortunately, his legs were stuck in the ground. He was unable to move, and the tiger is just behind him. And then he could hear the sound of scratching. The tiger was scratching on the ground, and he could hear that sound. And the scratch, scratch, then a thud. Thud means a jumping sound. Swaminathan tried to open his eyes, but his eyelids would not open, and the nightmare continued. He tried very hard to open his eyelids, but he was unable to open, and the nightmares continued. Swaminathan groaned, and with a desperate effort, he opened his eyes. He put his hand out to feel his granny's presence at his side, as was his habit. But he only touched the wooden leg of the bench. His long-legged state came back to him. He sweated with fright. So somehow he opened his eyes. So it was his habit whenever he is seeing or whenever he had seen a bad dream, he opens his eyes and then he searches for his granny so that he will become some courage. He searched for his granny's presence, but granny is not there. He touched on the legs of the bench, but then he became more frightened. He understood that he is lying down at his father's office alone. So he became more frightened. And now, what was this rustling? So there was some sound. Some sound was coming out there. Rustling means a low rubbing sound made by dry leaves or paper. Somebody is walking on the paper, or somebody is searching something in the paper. Some sort of sound is coming from his room. So, and now, what was that? This rustling. Something was moving down. He lay gazing at it in horror. His end had come. He realized that the devil would presently pull him out and tear him apart. And so, why should he wait? As it came nearer, he crawled out from under the bench, hugged it with all his might, and used his teeth on it like a mortal weapon. So something is moving under the bench. Slowly, something is moving. Then he identified that it's a devil, and the devil came near to him, and he is going to kill him. The devil is going to take him out under the bench, from under the bench, and the devil is going to tear him into pieces. Then Swaminathan thought, why should I wait? Then he used all his power, and the only mortal weapon that he had was his teeth. With his teeth, he gave a very strong bite. Ayyo, something has bitten me, went forth an agonized, thundering cry, and was followed by a heavy tumbling and falling amidst furniture. As Swaminathan used his teeth, somebody cried louder and agonized. Agonized means expressing a severe pain. So something was crying louder and fell between the furnitures. All of a sudden, in a moment, father, the cook, and the servant came in carrying lights. And all three of them fell on the burglar who lay amidst the furniture with a bleeding ankle. So what happens is that it was not the devil, it was a thief. So when father, servant, and cook came, they had seen the thief, and they fell on the thief and they caught the thief. Congratulations were showered on Swaminathan the next day. His classmates looked at him with respect, and his teacher patted his back. The headmaster said that he was a true scout. Swaminathan had bitten into the flesh of one of the most notorious housebreakers of the district, and the police were grateful to him for it. So on the next day, everyone appreciated Swaminathan. The children were looking at him with respect. The teachers congratulated him and patted on his back, and even the police were grateful to him for catching or for helping to catch the notorious housebreaker of that district. The inspector said, "Why don't you join the police when you've grown up?" Swaminathan said, for the sake of politeness, "Certainly, sir," though he had quite made up his mind to be an engine driver, a railway guard, or bus conductor later in his life. So Swaminathan had an ambition, or he wanted to become a conductor or an engine driver or a driver. But when the police officer asked him, "Why will you become a police officer when you grow up?" Then Swaminathan with politeness said that, "Yes, I will certainly become a police officer." When he returned home that night, father asked, "Where is the boy?" "He is asleep." "He didn't have a wink of sleep the whole of last night," said his mother. So the next day, the father asked, "Where is Swaminathan?" And the mother said, "Yesterday night he was unable to sleep. He couldn't sleep. So he is asleep now." "Where is he sleeping?" Then father asked. "In his usual place," mother said casually. "He went to bed at 7:30. "Sleeping beside his granny again?" father said. No wonder he wanted to be asleep before I could return home. So then father said, oh, he is sleeping with his granny. That's why he slept early before I come back to home. Because Swaminathan knows that his father will not be allowing him to sleep with granny. Mother lost her temper. You let him sleep where he likes. You needn't risk his life again. Then the mother became very angry. And mother said to father, you shall not put his life in danger. So the last day, his father forced him to sleep at his office room. And the thief came. And it was not safe to sleep like that. So mother said, don't put the life of your child in dangerous. Then father mumbled, all right, mollycoddle him as much as you like, but don't blame me afterwards. Mollycoddle means pamper him. Swaminathan's father was saying that you shall not pamper him too much. If he is pampered too much, then he will not become a courageous man. And later you shall not blame me. Then Swaminathan felt tremendously relieved to hear that his father was giving up on him. Actually, Swaminathan does not sleep. He was pretending that he was sleeping. He was doing like that only to save himself from his father's decision. So this is the story written by R.K. Narayanan, one of the famous Indian writer, and it is a very beautiful story. And dear students, you have to read this story fully, and you have to understand and write down the difficult words in your copy and learn those words and its meanings. Have a nice day. God bless you all.